It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Kyle Benedict as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, and today we're talking about bicycle and pedestrian safety with kids going back to school. We've had a couple accidents in kind of the Verde Valley and central Arizona here regarding bicyclists versus vehicles and pedestrian versus vehicles. So, and it's always just a good thing to reiterate kind of the rules and regulations, some of the safety tips for riding with traffic, walking with traffic, and it's just a good thing to kind of just be aware of, especially even though summer's coming to an end. Summer months, nice weather still here in this area. So we're talking about this, and joining me today we have Sergeant Jeremy Daniels with the Cottonwood Police Department and Ben Kramer from firefighter with the Cottonwood Fire Department. Yes. So guys, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here, Kyle.
And this is, you know, it's a topic that is good for everyone to know, and it doesn't hurt to reiterate this to everyone and the viewers and listeners about bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, what you should have on your bike, what you should be doing when you're walking. And so is there any specific, I guess just to start off, school, like I mentioned, is back in session. Is there any time of year where you kind of see an increase in accidents involving bikes or bicyclists or pedestrians? I guess, Jeremy, do you guys see anything?
Overall, basically, we see an increase in bicyclists on the roadways, sharing the roadways with drivers of vehicles during the time when the climate is warm. So during the summer months when the school's out of session, as well as any time where there's not inclement weather, things of that nature. So it's always important for drivers to be on the lookout for bicyclists all year round.
And Ben, from a firefighter standpoint, do you guys see any increase in calls, accidents, responding with kids, or especially with school, kind of kids going to and from school, people picking their kids up in school zones? It seems like that is kind of a congested area during the school year. Do you guys see any increase during the school year in bike and pedestrian accidents?
Well, as far as bike and pedestrian accidents, we don't see generally an increase during that time. We do see a lot more congestion, which can be trouble for the traffic moving through there, or even emergency vehicles. So we try to avoid those zones, and the schools do a really good job of controlling them and slowing down that traffic, so we have lower mechanism of injury for any accidents that do occur. Okay.
And Jeremy, from a Cottonwood Police standpoint, you guys have a bike squad. And can you talk a little bit about the bike squad that the Cottonwood Police Department has, and kind of what the goal of those officers on patrol are?
Sure, yeah. Since 2009, with the inception of the Cottonwood Police Bicycle Squad unit that I basically run as the sergeant, we basically utilize bicycles. Currently, it's a four-man squad. We utilize bicycles to supplement the patrol activities of the department. Basically in congested areas like Ben was talking about, areas where it's difficult to get vehicles in. There might be a high level of vehicle traffic, or smaller areas where vehicles can't fit. Examples would be schools, parks, special events, even housing complexes, things like that. Basically also we like to use it as a tool for community policing, because police officers are more visible and more approachable on bicycles.
Yeah, and I guess when you guys are patrolling at events, it kind of helps not to be walking all over the place. Nice to have a little bike. What about as far as the, you know, I don't seem to see or notice too many bicyclists being pulled over, or I don't really see them on the side of the road with, you know, your bike, and then you have the squad car behind there. What's kind of the procedure for if you see someone riding their bike along the street or down the street, and maybe they don't have you know, any lights on their bike, and it's at night or something like that? What is kind of the procedure for stopping them, and kind of what's the punishment there, or how do you handle that?
Well, Arizona law looks at a bicycle as a vehicle, and a rider of a bicycle is subject to the same duties and responsibilities as a motor vehicle driver. So when we see a bicyclist who is in violation of either municipal or state law, we take enforcement action with the emphasis on education primarily, because we understand that bicycles are not the same as motor vehicles. So generally we can activate our lights. A lot of times we activate our lights and have pull into private property area where they're not in danger of being hit by passing motor vehicles, and try and educate on proper lighting equipment, bicycle equipment, as well as riding law.
So more of an education kind of
Correct. We take enforcement action where appropriate, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt and understand that some people may or may not be aware of the law, and like to educate people.
I mean, yeah, you don't want people afraid to ride their bike and then being pulled over by a police officer and, you know, getting cited or I mean, what is as far as kind of switching over, we are talking bike and pedestrian kind of safety, jaywalking. You know, you kind of know that jaywalking you're not supposed to do, but what is the actual punishment for jaywalking? I mean, is that something that you guys kind of keep an eye out for? If you see someone jaywalking, do you stop them?
We do. We try to encourage people to cross on designated crosswalks or intersection if a crosswalk doesn't exist. But it's a civil infraction. It carries a fine. But ultimately, we're trying to get pedestrians to utilize crosswalks to where there's actually a fixed signage that designates it as such.
And Ben, what's the Cottonwood Fire Department doing to kind of raise awareness as far as you know, safety when it comes to riding a bike or walking on the road?
Well, a lot of our educational efforts go towards the youth of our communities, and so we've partnered with the Yavapai County Community Health Services to work on bike rodeos. Cottonwood PD and Cottonwood Fire have both helped out with those, where we get kids fit on helmets and we teach them safe practices, make sure that they understand how to stop and that their bikes are in good repair.
How important is it for parents to kind of reiterate all this to their children? I mean, especially if they're riding to school or to or from a friend's house, you know, you open the door and let them go. How important is it to kind of reiterate all this?
Well, that's a big challenge, because a lot of the parents, you know, when they grew up, we didn't have all the same safety equipment, and they didn't necessarily understand how important it was to wear a helmet. So educating the parents as well helps bring up the next generation being more safe.
And we'll talk about later on in the show kind of places you can go, websites, phone numbers, kind of resources to learn more about this. But we're going to take our first break, guys, and when we come back, we're going to touch on some of the equipment that is required on your bike, some of the recommended equipment, and as well as safety equipment here. We're talking again bike safety and pedestrian safety while walking or riding along the road. We'll be back right in a couple minutes.
In the 1950s and early 1960s, the United States government conducted nuclear testing in the Nevada desert. The wind carried contamination throughout parts of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. People living in the affected areas during that time are known as downwinders. 20 forms of cancer have been linked to downwinders, and free cancer screenings are available to qualified individuals. Over $1.8 billion has been paid out in compensation by the U.S. government. Please check the downwinders' websites for more information.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, and I'm joined by Cottonwood Police Sergeant Jeremy Daniels and Cottonwood firefighter Ben Kramer. And we're talking about bicycle and pedestrian safety. And we're just going to kind of dive in here. Sergeant Jeremy Daniels brought his bicycle in with us. We got it propped up here to kind of demonstrate some of the things that are recommended on a bicycle, and also some of the things that are required. So let's just kind of start out by, I guess, as far as lighting. We all know that it's you have to have lights, or it's a good idea to have lights on the front and the back of your bike. So what's required as far as lights?
So, great question, Kyle. So basically, Arizona law requires that if you're riding after sunset or before sunrise, that your bicycle be equipped with a light, amber or white in color that illuminates the roadway and visible 500 feet to the front, as well as a red reflector on the rear of the bicycle. Our department, as advocates of safety, would encourage as much visibility on a bicycle as possible. So all the reflectors that are stock equipment that come on bicycles, that they not be removed, that a red solid or flashing light to the rear be equipped on a bicycle. It provides that extra level of visibility that's essential if you're going to be riding, not only at nighttime, but during the day as well.
And you have this kind of nice light mounted right here on your handlebars, and then on the back you have a little kind of red light as well. And on my bike, my personal bike, I have a white light on the back, and it flashes. Is that something that can be stopped for? Does it have to be, you mentioned, kind of something a little more visible, but does it have to be a flashing light?
No, it doesn't. The Arizona law states that you can have a supplementary equipment with flashing lights. I would recommend you having a red light to the rear. The white light to the rear, if you're operating on a roadway, is actually not permissible. So you want to get red covering for that if possible.
Okay, and let's kind of move to the helmet. Obviously, you're told when you're really young all the way through that it's important to wear a helmet. It can, save your life, and it can really provide that extra source of protection if, you fall off or you get hit by a vehicle. So I know I see a lot of younger kids and people wearing their helmets. They have the helmet on, that's great and everything, but it's buckled, and if there's 4 inches or underneath between their chin strap and their chin, or it's not even, it's unbuckled. Mm-hmm. So how important, what's the proper way to wear a bicycle helmet? I guess we'll turn it over to you, Ben, for this, or whoever would like to answer this. Just the correct, proper way to wear a bicycle helmet.
Well, bicycle helmets, just like seat belts and car seats, have to be fit, and they have to be used correctly, or they aren't effective safety equipment. Children are encouraged to, seek either Yavapai County or come to the public safety building to get their helmet fit if they're not sure, if their parents aren't sure. But you should be able to have it snug below the chin, so that only 2 fingers will fit underneath there. It shouldn't be high up above the eyebrows where it's tilted way back on the head, or way down over the face. It should be pretty level. And then on the ears, it should come down just below the ears, where the Ys of the strap come down. And it should be snug fitting, it should be comfortable. And do you have anything to add?
A rule of thumb that I've heard is that if you open your mouth wide, it should tug. The strap should be tight enough to tug the helmet down against the top of your head when you open your mouth.
And I'm sure that's just to make sure that it stays on if you're,
Correct. Yes.
Absolutely.
If you're in a fall and the helmet's not secured effectively to your head, it's not going to be effective or as effective in preventing head injury, which is really the goal, is to prevent head injury.
Yeah.
And is it required to have a helmet when you're riding a bike?
No, it is not.
It is not.
It's strongly encouraged, but there's no state law on bicycle helmets. On a bicycle, on a motorcycle, there is.
Okay.
Something to add that I think some people don't realize is that bike helmets are a one-time use. After a big crash, they should be destroyed and a new one gotten, because once that's been compromised, during a large crash, we want to make sure it's replaced with a new helmet that's going to protect you next time as well.
Okay. I don't know. That's something that if I would have gotten a crash on a bike and nailed my head on the pavement, I wouldn't have gotten a new helmet. So that's really interesting, and that's just kind of because it's meant to kind of take the blow and impact, and then is it defective after that?
Well, especially if there's any deformation or cracking, or it's broken apart, we want to replace that with a new helmet.
Another thing, while we're talking about helmets, it's important that when you're buying a helmet, that you make sure that it's CPSC certified. It should be labeled somewhere on the bike. It's a Consumer Protection Safety Commission. Basically rates the effectiveness of a crash rating for a helmet. So sometimes, there's companies that might sell helmets that wouldn't provide that level of protection. So.
Okay. And as far as riding and the position on the road you should be riding on, can you ride on sidewalks? I mean, is that a good idea to ride on sidewalks?
So,
is it against the law to ride on sidewalks?
So it's important to know your local and county ordinances in reference to that. There's no state law that specifically states you can't ride a bicycle on a sidewalk. There is city ordinances that either make it where it's completely illegal to, or where it's posted not to. So it's important that you know the local laws concerning that. Data from the national standpoint will show that it's far safer to ride in the street than on the sidewalk. And
if you're, riding in the street, how should you position yourself with traffic?
So important to always ride with traffic. People don't understand, or it's counterintuitive that riding against traffic is safer because you can see vehicles coming your direction. However, there's a multitude of reasons why that is false. The first being that when you ride against traffic, your speed combines with the speed of the approaching vehicle and can effectively create a lot less space for reactionary time. So if a vehicle's coming at you at 35 and you're traveling 50 miles an hour, the combined speed is 50 miles an hour. You don't have a lot of reaction time if you do see something happening, versus if you're going with traffic, the effective speed is 20 miles an hour. You have a lot more time to react, get out of the way. Also, vehicles coming off of side streets as well as driveways are looking left as they turn right. They're not looking right, and if you're approaching from the opposite direction of traffic, they're not going to see you.
What about walking along the road?
So walking, if you're walking on a sidewalk, it's not as big a deal. We're mainly for bicyclists. What if
there's no sidewalk? Because we had, like I mentioned, there was a couple instances in Prescott Valley. A 65-year-old man was walking, and he was walking in the middle of the road, wearing dark clothing early in the morning. So if there's no sidewalk and there's maybe not, a small shoulder, should you walk with traffic as well, or should you kind of walk against traffic? Does it matter there?
Well, you want to be cognizant of where you are and vehicles in the area. Try to stay on side streets. Wear visible clothing if at all possible. They sell reflective tape. There's reflective fluorescent coloring clothing, things of that nature to be visible.
You just want to make sure that people can see you.
Yeah, we recommend that you don't walk on the roadway. If you can walk, if there's a shoulder provided, or a sidewalk would be appropriate.
People walking in the evenings or in the early mornings, should be equipped with things like headlamps or reflective clothing so that they are more visible.
I was just going to kind of ask you guys about the clothing you should be wearing. As a bike, obviously reflective gear. What do you guys wear when you guys are on patrol with the bike squad for the Cottonwood Police Department?
Well, we have this
uniform on right there.
Yeah, the uniform I'm currently wearing. This is actually, you can't tell because of the lighting, but this is actually, and for the radio listeners, there's a reflective stitched section on the shirt I'm wearing that provides a reflective element to the shirt. Because it makes you a lot more visible. We obviously have the lighting equipment provided on the bicycles, but as well as the reflective. I recommend getting reflective either tape or reflective ankle straps, because your ankles move as you ride, and a moving reflective surface is very
Catches
visible.
The eye of the motorist a little bit more. Okay, great. Yeah, I must say that's a pretty good looking. I like the reflectiveness right there, kind of across the chest. Because when you're riding on a bicycle, when you're in a car, you're in this big vehicle. You have your lights in the back, you have your brake light up top, and you're in this big moving vehicle. It's easy to see even if you don't have lights with street lights and all that. When you're on a bicycle, you have, we talked about the importance of lights. You have this little reflector in the back and a small one up on front. So I'm sure you want to do as much as you can to make yourself as visible as possible to motorists on the road, and that clothing can do that, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Kyle. Also, I strongly recommend anyone on a bicycle or motorcycle, for that matter, ride with the assumption that drivers are not going to see you. Ride with that assumption and act accordingly. Be, take appropriate. Be cognizant of where you are and understand, and have the ability to quickly take evasive action, slowing as vehicles approach from private alleyways, and also also look out for pedestrians.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to take our last break real quick, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about where you guys can go to kind of learn more about this and maybe kind of learn about the safety equipment as well. So that's going to be back. We'll take our last break here. When we come back in a couple minutes, we'll talk about where you can go for more information.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing. Wow!
I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Oh, not again.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Let's switch to Energy Star light bulbs and stop burning through cash. Saving energy saves you money.
In the 1950s and early 1960s, the United States government conducted nuclear testing in the Nevada desert. The wind carried contamination throughout parts of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. People living in the affected areas during that time are known as downwinders. 20 forms of cancer have been linked to downwinders, and free cancer screenings are available to qualified individuals. Over $1.8 billion has been paid out in compensation by the U.S. government. Please check the downwinders' websites for more information.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, and today we're talking bicycle and pedestrian safety with Sergeant Jeremy Daniels with the Cottonwood Police Department and firefighter Ben Kramer with the Cottonwood Fire Department. And Ben, so where can kind of the public go if they have any more questions or need help, maybe with some of the equipment or how things work? Where can they go for that?
Well, as always, the Public Safety Building on 191 South 6th Street, right at 6th and Aspen, is where the police department and the fire department is. And we can be a source for any safety-related questions. We can direct people to more information about bikes or bike safety or getting a helmet or anything else of that nature.
Okay. And what about Verde River Days? That's coming up here on the 28th, and you guys are going to be doing some stuff there as well. What's exactly
Yavapai County is going to be out there through their Safe Routes to School program. They're going to be providing free helmets and fittings to any kids that show up to that event.
Okay. And Jeremy, for maybe websites or places people can go as far as, you know, what to do on the road when riding a bike or what they should include on their bike. Are there some websites that people can visit, or where can they go for information on that?
Sure, yeah, there's some websites I can give you right quick. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has a website that has a lot of really good, useful information, as well as statewide azbikeped.org is Arizona Department of Transportation's run website specific to pedestrian as well as bicycle safety.
Okay.
And then Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety also maintains a website that has good information on that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. You know, it's important that we kind of reiterate, you know, the safety precautions and equipment that's required, or not required, but recommended to be as safe as possible when out there on the road. And yeah, hopefully, once again, Verde River Days on the September 28th, they'll be out there doing free, giving away free helmets to kids, as well as fittings for that to make sure it fits properly. Like we mentioned earlier in the show, that's extremely important. So thank you guys for being here with me. That's today's Countywide. I'm Kyle Benedict, and we'll see you next time.